Welcome to the latest episode of the MFG Radio Network's Manufacturing Matters, where industry experts take deep dives into the latest technologies you need to consider to keep manufacturing moving. Welcome to our latest roundtable discussion, Being Educated About Automation Options. I'm Jake Kaufman, an associate editor for GIE Media's Manufacturing Group. Our expert is standing by, waiting to tell you how you can stay competitive, produce better products, and beat the competition, along with what automation fully encompasses. We'd like to thank today's sponsor, Fastems. Fastems is the leading supplier of flexible automation solutions for high-mix CNC machining. Fastems is a family-owned integrator with over 40 years and 5,000 installations of experience with 100-plus machine tool, device, and software brands. Their customers are industrial machine builders and subcontractors of various kinds located in Europe, North America, and Asia. Their mission is to help metalworking manufacturers improve their productivity and profitability and also build competitive and sustainable manufacturing. Fastems supplies pallet and robotic automation solutions, always equipped with their industry-leading production planning and execution software, MMS. They have solutions for automating the production and resource planning of standalone machining, and also support their systems with a wide range of services. Now, we are joined today by Jason Atkins. He brings more than 20 years of direct manufacturing experience to his role as business development manager at Fastems. Atkins gained firsthand knowledge of the needs of machine shops early on as a machinist, eventually becoming an NC programmer and manufacturing engineer before moving into manufacturing engineering and operations management. He has spent the last 15 years involved in the aerospace manufacturing industry and is responsible for two sizable installations of Fastems automation systems at aerospace manufacturing shops. Atkins is well practiced in performing and managing manufacturing process improvements and in implementing manufacturing's best practices and manufacturing automation systems. So, Jason, I want to thank you so far for joining me today, all the way in Tulsa, Oklahoma. So thank you so much for today. And just want to get right into the discussion, if that's okay with you.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Awesome, Jason. So the first question is, what does a new client need to have in place before they begin an automation process?
I think that's a question we get asked on a normal basis for almost every installation or potential installation. And the quick and easy answer is stable and predictable processes. And automation, we're only automating the processes that are in place. And so, leading up to automation, the more stable your manufacturing processes are, the more predictable they are, then the easier it is to automate. And, we're just being able to repeat the same process over and over on a schedule with resources. So without a stable and predictable process, it is very difficult to automate any manufacturing process.
Well, thank you, Jason. So our next question then would be, what does a client need to consider if they are an existing customer and they want to expand their automation process?
If you already have automation in place and then you're looking to expand your existing automation further, same system, new system, the main thing is to look at current workload versus your predicted workload. And the mistake I think a lot of our current customers have made, and the potential mistake that customers can make, is not looking at the prediction of the workload increase over time and only looking at it short term. So when that happens, then the system doesn't get expanded enough, and then you end up doing it more than once, which is a higher incurred cost. It's a higher incur of downtime of your system, because to expand the system has to come offline. And so your system's going to be down more, and it's going to cost quite a bit more overall than getting it right the first time. So the recommendation is to expand it, a little more than what you think. And so make sure you have your data, make sure that you're measuring, and then go a little bit beyond what your current estimates are. That way that you can handle that excess surge if needed, and you're not having to come back in and expand the system again in a very short time frame.
Awesome. Thank you, Jason. So
No
if
problem.
you do have a automation system up and running, what or how easy is it if an adjustment needs to be made to that system? How easy is it to potentially add something to it or take something away?
With our systems at Fastems, it's very, very easy, especially making adjustments within the system, adding new work, taking work away from the system, changing setups, introducing new first articles, new parts into the system. So with our systems, it's basically a one button, and you just turn the autopilot off, right? Once autopilot's off, then everything is under manual control. And then the operator can go make whatever adjustments that he needs, prove out new tool paths, introduce new things into the system. And this can be done for the whole system, or it can be done for one machine in the system. So if you have, say, 4 machines on a system, and one machine needs to come down for maintenance activities, for instance, which is a pretty normal occurrence, then you can just turn that one machine off. Then all work will be rerouted to the other machines within the system, and the system will operate as normally um, until that machine is brought back online. And so introducing new work into the system, very easy. Um, Taking machines online and offline, very easy. We try to make that as painless as possible because, in most shops, that's going to be at least a daily occurrence, if not multiple times per day, where there has to be somebody that has to do something within the machine tool, whether it's tooling related, work holding related, maintenance related. Their machines, you still got to interact with them on a normal basis.
Okay, so one of the buzzwords, obviously, in the manufacturing industry now is Industry 4.0, or the Industrial Internet of Things. So when it does come time to use automation, how ready for Industry 4.0 are they? How much is data driven when it does come to an automation system?
I think the automation systems like ours at Fastems are very Industry 4.0 ready. We try to stay up to date with all modern technologies and best practices when it comes to connectivity, interacting with other devices. And we're an integrator, so we have to play well with everyone. It doesn't matter the machine tool, doesn't matter the robot, doesn't matter the interface. We have to make sure that we can connect very easily with all these other peripheral devices. And so from an Industry 4.0 standpoint, I think companies like Fastems, we are very, very ready for that, but it is very data driven. Everything that we do relies on data. So our software can make good decisions for you, right? So the decisions are going to be based off of the data. And if we're not collecting good data and we're not being a data-driven solution, then we're not going to make good decisions. So the data is crucial in all automated systems.
Thank you, Jason. So then with a fully automated system, what are some challenges that, might be kind of around the corner? Is it susceptible to hacking? What kind of like cybersecurity should you kind of have, in mind when you do have a fully automated system?
Well, when it comes to our system specifically, we're Windows based, like most things now, and so making sure that the software is always up to date, security updates, that's always crucial for any computing system, whether it's your office computer, your server system, or your Fastening system. When it comes to cybersecurity, that's always a hot topic, I guess, especially nowadays. And so making sure that you're very secure on the server end, our systems can be isolated, more or less, right? Basically, where we're not really connected to your server fully, right? We're only looking at the data that you allow us to look at. And so that protects a lot on the customer side, right? Even if our system gets hacked, whoever's hacking is not going to see, the customer data, for instance, right? Because we're not really connected to the sensitive data that's behind a firewall on the customer server side. And so we are in many facilities, like Lockheed, for instance, and they have the tightest cybersecurity. So there are, we take that very seriously at Fastems, and we're doing everything we can to make sure that our systems are as secure as can be, and also meet requirements of even defense contractors that have our systems installed. So I think, we're as good as we can be.
Awesome. So then also, is there any kind of like potential, if a power outage or an internet outage, is there any kind of, I guess, outside force, not necessarily like a hacking or anything, that could potentially be disturbed or could disturb an automation system?
Yeah, but it's the same thing as basically as a CNC machine tool, right? We're driven by a lot of the same technologies. Our robots run on rails controlled by servo motors, the same as and ball screws, the same as CNC machines. So if a power outage hits, it's going to be the same disruption as the CNC machine tools, unless that your facility has generator backup.
Okay.
Which and that's going to be more on the customer side. If they have a backup system in place to continue to supply electricity in case of, say, power failure. But there's nothing on our side that's going to be detrimentally affected by a power outage, as long as the site preparation for the equipment is correct, right? You got the correct transformer, you got the correct electrical connection, the correct surge protection. Our systems are, they have a battery backup the same as, like a CNC machine tool does. So you're not going to lose, the robot positions or the stacker crane positions. You're not going to have to reteach, the system where things are at, right? So all that is going to be stored. So when the power comes back on, the system will resume operation as soon as you reset everything back to its home positions. Basically in a very similar manner than a CNC machine tool, right? You rehome the machine and you're back to work again.
Yeah. Awesome. Thank you, Jason. So how many of the products at Fastems, how many technologies, products, solutions can be automated into an automated system? Is it exclusively automation when it comes to Fastems, or are there still some avenues that you're looking to work into?
I think with us, everything that we do is automation based. So all of our products and all of our solutions are designed to automate our customers. No matter whether it is from AGV robots taking material to and from places in a factory, to deburring robot cells, CNC automation solutions for milling machines, pallet systems, mill turn machines, part handling, even your peripheral systems, CMMs, we can bring those into our systems, part washing systems. So everything that we do is designed for automation, and we're always looking at how do we automate more things, right? Within the manufacturing space. That's really our focus, and our forte is CNC and factory automation systems. So if it's within that bucket, I guess, then that's what we do.
Now, has there been a process that you've come across that you haven't been able to automate yet? Is there something that you're kind of thinking, down the line might at one time be automated, but at the moment it's still very manual?
Um, I really don't know a good answer to that question, I guess. Um, you know, as far as future things, for us, we are task-based automation.
Okay.
So it's, material and part movement, loading and unloading of machines, um, cutting tools, part washing, deburring, part inspection, like we talked about. So, you know, uh, those are the things within a manufacturing system that are um, that's not the things you're thinking about. It's not the
Mhm.
things that you're engineering. It's just the things, the tasks that have to happen. Material has to come to and from certain places. Um, Cutting tools have to be changed out of machines. Parts have to be inspected, and so that's really what we're trying to make sure that we automate at a very high level. Um, I'm sure that there's multiple things that we would be looking at automating going forward, but I don't have a good answer of
Yeah.
specifically what those things would be.
Well, that was a good answer for not having a good answer, Jason.
Yeah.
So, when it does come to automation, are you seeing your customers using it more, like you had said, as a material handling process? Is it something where the actual machining itself is automated? What's kind of like the breakdown of where you're seeing the automation being used?
Well, historically, I think machine tool automation has been focused solely on the machining processes. It's been, pallet system, putting up, just taking a pallet in and out of a machine with pallets and pallet racking, or it's been, one robot arm in front of like a CNC lathe, taking, material to the machine, taking a finished part out of the spindle, right? It's been very limited automation. And while those have been also what we focus on, right?
Mhm.
We build pallet systems and put robots in front of machines all the time. I think there's a more of a push now for end-to-end automation. So it's more of the system, right? So how do we take raw material from the storage area to the system, have it machined, have it deburred, have it washed, have it inspected, and um, be ready to put in a box and ship to a customer, right? And all that
Mhm.
happen automatically. And so we get a lot more interest, I think, in that than we do in nowadays, where customers are just asking more of automation versus, I just want to put a robot in front of this machine, or I just want to put a pallet system on the
Yeah.
machine, right? Because there's been so many companies that it's already done that,
Yeah.
that now they're seeing the benefits of automation, and so those existing customers come back and say, well, if I extend the system, can the system do the deburring too? Can it do the parts washing? Can I put a CMM? Well, how do I get the material? Can we use AGVs and just have the material come to the system automatically? And so there's always this desire, once the process starts, to extend it and have it do more things. So I think overall that's been really, what we've been seeing lately. And then also branching out into other areas where it's not just automating CNC machine tools. It's automating your deburring department, like in aerospace, aerostructures, where I come from. Most shops have a large deburring department. You have
Yeah.
multiple people standing in deburring department, deburring all these aerostructural, components. And so we're getting a lot more interest also in, even just outside of the CNC machining. How do we automate that process, right? How do we make that better, more consistent, more stable, more predictable? So I think as we go forward in the industry, that's going to continue of looking at all of the sub processes on how do we automate everything. Um, so
Awesome. Thank you, Jason. So then when it does come to automation, how is it being used to make up for the lost workforce that we've all experienced because of the pandemic? And then also, how is it used to kind of make sure that the workforce that is in the shop is highly productive and efficient?
Well, I think, as we talked about just a little bit ago, automation takes care of repetitive tasks that require time. But they don't, those tasks are not the ones that require a lot of brain power, right? And so we're nowadays the buzzwords all around AI and all that stuff. But, when it comes to factory automation, we're taking care of task, right? You still have to have smart people, subject matter experts that are thinking about how to do things and make these processes actually work. So I think one of the benefits that most people don't really maybe think about on the front end when they're thinking about automation is if you implement the automation, you're actually freeing up your employees' time. That way they can actually focus on thinking about how to do things better, right? And improve the processes. If you got that experienced machinist that's got, 10, 12, 15 years of experience, right? And he's got a whole lot of knowledge in his head that he could be utilizing to help the programming team or the engineering team come up with better ways to process these, parts and make these improvements. But if his time's just taking up standing in front of a pallet station, on a twin pallet machine, moving parts on and off of pallets all day, then you're really underutilizing his knowledge, right? So if we can replace that with automation and free him up to actually, go make some process improvements, it's actually better for the business.
Thank you, Jason. Now, this is also something that you kind of just touched on, but with more automation being worked into factories, how important is the human workforce while using an automated system, and kind of how do you steer them away from fearing automation that it might take their job?
I think this is a very important topic with automation because I've dealt with it, personally, like I said. The first time that you come in, and talk automation in, I think, any facility that's not there yet or hasn't really introduced it, it's the normal response of robots are going to take my job, right? That's the fear,
Yep.
right? We're going to bring in robots and robots are just going to take my job. For my personal experience, in implementing a automated system, within a manufacturing facility, we ended up with more employees afterwards than we did before the automation system. And everybody's like, well, that's not what's expected, right? But if you think about it, when you implement the automated system, you're going to change jobs, but you're not really eliminating jobs, right? But you got to move some people around, because now if this guy is stuck in front of a machine and he's just changing out parts, right? But then I automate that process. Well, that frees his time up to go do something else. So then what does he go do? Well, maybe that guy wants to be a programmer. Maybe he wants to work in engineering. Maybe he wants to go into the assembly department. Maybe there's multiple other positions within every facility, and maybe this guy can be better utilized somewhere else, right? So then that guy has the ability to move within the facility, right? And so I think what you see a lot of the time is we automate these tasks, and then people start moving into different roles. And then over the next year, 2 years, 3 years, whatever the time frame is, then you actually start seeing a rise in base pay levels and average pay levels within the facility, because people are actually doing more important work. They become more valuable for the work that they do, because they're not just deburring a part, or they're not just being a parts loader or an operator in a machine tool, right? So I think overall it increases your wages, and it gives people more important tasks to do. Does it eliminate certain positions? Absolutely. But I think with the increase in efficiency, productivity, the ROI that the companies get from implementing, automation, they make more money, right? So, and they can process more work, and so they can hire more people. And so I've experienced that firsthand, that once you become more efficient, and once you, automate and you're competitive within the industry, and you're freeing people up within your business to kind of chase the jobs that they want to have, then everything becomes a little better. The company makes more money and your employees are a little happier.
Awesome. Thank you, Jason. So the final question that I have is something that
Sure.
we have a little bit touched on just a few times throughout this, but the future factory, what does it look like as far as automation? What do you see kind of going down the line? Is it going to be fully automated? How many different processes would you see in a factory that would be done through automation?
Um, my personal opinion and insight into that is I think future factories will look much different than factories of today. We've seen a huge change in factories, over even the past 15 to 20 years. A lot of facilities are completely unrecognizable from the facility that they were, in the state they were in 20 years, 15, 20 years ago. And I don't think that that's going to slow down. The rate of change now is very fast. I think that it will continue to change. There's much more focus now on safety, than there has been within our industry. And I think that automation is going to continue to be pushed for especially dangerous tasks
Yeah.
to keep humans safer, right? It people getting hurt at work is not good. It's not good for the employee, it's not good for morale, and it's definitely not good for the company finances and their bottom line.
Mhm.
So I think that's going to continue to change. Our nature of all of our work will continue to transition from manufacturing being historically dirty to being more technologically advanced. And I think the more that people view that and they see that, the more interest we will have in people wanting to come back into our industry, where they're not shying away from it because it's a dirty, so-called dirty industry. And so, and then as we keep going, the more technology we use, it's going to change the nature of the work, in my opinion, and the nature of the jobs. So the jobs are going to transition. They're not really going to be eliminated, but I think there's going to be a lot more transition. Over my career, you've had a lot of, machine tool operators, people that just stand there and run the machines or deburr the parts or change the oil in the machines. They're very just lower
Regimented
paying
almost.
jobs.
Yeah.
Right. They're entry level into the industry. But I think that a lot more of those jobs are going to go away. Where, you're not going to be a machinist, right? Like, my dad was a machinist, my grandpa was a machinist, and I became a machinist, right? So it's just kind of that, you just keep it going. But my job as a machinist was much different than my dad's job as a machinist. And my dad's job as a machinist was much different than my grandpa's job as a machinist, right?
Yeah.
Because the technology keeps changing. And I think that's going to continue, obviously, but it's changing, I think, at a more rapid pace now, to where to be a machinist now is much more to be a technician. And you got to have more knowledge than just, what I had to have when I was going to trade school to be a machinist, 25 years ago. Now you have to have some robotics knowledge. Now you have to have some, PLC knowledge. You have to have a lot more computing knowledge and how the systems work together than just how to make the part. So I think that is going to continue going forward, and it's going to change a lot of different jobs, even your maintenance technician jobs. To keep all these automation systems running, the people within the facilities have to be more knowledgeable, which also means you got to pay them more as a company. So the company, I think it's a win-win. People make more money, the company makes more money, and you're automated. Your processes are stable and predictable, and so I don't think there's a lose in that scenario. But I do think the nature of everything is going to continue to transition. as we continue to move forward.
Jason, thank you so much for your time today, and thank you for all the knowledge that you brought us on automation systems.
You're welcome.
You can find more Manufacturing Matters plus the MFG Radio Network's other podcasts on Apple Music, Spotify, Google Podcast, or on our websites at todaysmedicaldevelopments.com, aerospacemanufacturinganddesign.com, and evdesignandmanufacturing.com.